Yes, my people, how are we all doing? I hope we're all well and good. Today it is a fine Sunday afternoon and I'm here to do a little Q&A for you guys on YouTube. I put a poll out or a question box out on Instagram yesterday asking for you to all send me through some questions that you wanted me to answer today. I've picked 5 of the best from there. I've also, for full transparency, whacked in a few prompts into ChatGPT to ask me 5 other questions so that you can just get to know me a little bit better from those answers. But without any further ado, I'm going to crack straight on with it today, starting with question number 1, which comes over from Instagram, which is, are you going to be in Oslo for Hyrox? And the answer to that is now no. I believe Hyrox Oslo is at the end of September, and the person who's asked me this question, I do apologise, I won't be there. The plan was for me to actually go and spectate. You know, a few people I know are going to be competing over in Oslo, but unfortunately it's clashing with a trip to Ibiza. So, you know, it'll probably be my last little send, my last little party before I really lock in for the season starting at the end of October for Valencia. So Valencia will be my first race. But September, I'm going to be, making the most of that final bit of downtime, off time. I've got an ultra marathon in Ibiza at the start of September, which coincides pretty perfectly with my birthday. So we'll be having a look at a little send thereafter as well. But yeah, won't be at Oslo. First race is Valencia. Then I've got Madrid. Then London. And those are the 3 races I'm sort of going to be peaking and prioritising this side of the new year. Okay, question number 2. Tips for the ski erg and the wall balls. This is obviously referring to Hyrox once more. Okay, I'll start with the ski erg as it's the first station on the course. For me, ski erg has always been one of my weaker areas. It was something that I personally struggled with when I first started Hyrox, but the areas that I try to focus on are you're going to be generating most of your power in that first sort of few inches of the drag. So I really try to accentuate the power in that first initial movement and then sort of relax on my way down, sort of pull towards the sort of, hip area and then reset. What you've got to think about is the ski is very much a hinging movement. So you want to be engaging those hamstrings, them glutes, trying to keep the chest as proud as you can. That would be my biggest tip for the ski erg, is that most of the power is at the top of the movement, so that's where you should be concentrating your effort most. I also find it very helpful to focus on one area on the machine itself. So for me, I'll just stare at the little C2 that you see in the middle of the fan there. I just focus my attention there. I try to find a comfortable foot position and just drive thereafter. Okay, so hopefully that helps on the ski erg. As for the wall balls, again, this is another one that was very, very alien, very difficult when I first started Hyrox. For me, I just practiced with a lot of dumbbell thrusters. So with 2 very light dumbbells, just getting those muscles engaged, because it replicates the movement pattern of a wall ball fairly similarly. So getting lots of dumbbell thrusters to build up volume and intensity. You can obviously add weight there to inject that intensity over time. But I'd coincide that simultaneously with just practicing wall balls with a lighter weight. So even if it's a 3 kg wall ball, just getting the rhythm, because that's ultimately what the wall balls are. It's very rhythmic, very much dependent on the throw, the catch, the drop, the engagement of the right muscle groups to spring back up and go again. So I'd practice with a lighter wall ball and get your volume and your intensity in with something like a dumbbell thruster. Okay, so hopefully that helps. Moving on to another question. We're going to switch it up and go over. No, actually, we'll keep with the Instagram questions first. We'll get all those out of the way. What is your current training looking like? Okay, so now is obviously the off season for me. I finished Cardiff Hyrox, which was my last race of the season, back in May. And since then, I took a week off. Actually, I took a week of sort of deloading with my training. And then I realised I was so burned out because I was competing every other weekend. So from the end of January, Manchester Hyrox Relay, until the end of May, I competed near enough every other week, if not every 3 weeks. I figured that out, come the end of May after Cardiff High Rocks, when I was trying to figure out why I felt so burned out. And that was the reason, whether it was half marathons or, High Rockses or whatever it was, I was competing all the time. So I took a little deload week, trained a little bit, and then realised I needed just a full week of rest. So I went to Valencia, went to Spain, and just didn't do anything. Went for a couple of very light, easy, active, recovery jogs. Wouldn't even call them runs, but no training whatsoever. Come back and I got stuck straight into a strength block. So since then, that's exactly what I've been doing. I'm in week 6, approaching week 7 as of tomorrow. So that'll be an 8-week block. So I've got one more week of that. And then that will place me in the middle of August, which gives me 2 months or 8 weeks to sort of peak, get very specific with my training for High Rocks Valencia in the middle of October. So that's where I'm currently at, really focusing on strength. I've noticed a massive improvement in my running as a result. Slowly building running volume. I'm currently running, 40 to 50 kilometers a week, slowly building up closer towards 60. Just really trying to manage the volume there. But I'm also, of course, training now for an ultra marathon, as I think I might have alluded to already in this video, in IB, for running from one end to the other at the start of September. So I've also got that to bear in mind. So now I've got long runs at the weekend where I'll be trying to replicate that same style of slower, more volume-based running. So, for example, yesterday I did a long run. It was 11k, stopped, come back, ate some food, had a stretch, 5-10 minutes, turned around, went out, done another 11k. So that was 22k. Do something similar next week and slowly build that volume over time so it's not a shock to the system when I do the ultra at the start of September. And just to go back to the strength training, I've got 3 strength sessions per week. So focusing on some different movement patterns. Got a front squat on a Monday. What else is that on a Monday? A front squat with some more bench and pull-up work. Then on a Wednesday, it is a shoulder press, heavy shoulder press with some split squats. And on a Friday, it is RDLs and back squats. So they are the movement patterns that I'm really, really focusing on. And then plenty of accessory movements around that and some conditioning pieces in between as well. So that's where I'm at with my training at the moment. Hopefully that provided a decent little bit of insight. Okay, should I train fasted is the next question. Now, funny enough, I assume that this is coming off the back of the reel that I released on Instagram. I've also just released a YouTube video on this very topic on intermittent fasting. So if you're interested in that, I'll leave a link in the description down below on this YouTube video. Should I train fasted? There are some certain questions in that video that I talk about that you need to ask yourself. There are lots of variables that you need to consider. First one being, what's the intensity of your session? How long before the session did you eat last? Was it the night before? And how many hours were in between? I personally don't train fasted unless it's a very easy session. So it might be a zone 2 session, 30 to 60 minute jog, 30 to 60 minute cycle. That's when I might, train fasted, because, you're tapping into fat stores as opposed to your glucose and your glycogen. But I just prefer to train, with something in the system. You'll notice a big difference. And once you do notice that difference, it's very hard to want to go back because you just feel so much better. If you're training in the mornings, for example, you might just take a banana. You might just take some rice cakes with some honey, just some easy carbohydrates. But it's not wholly necessary if it is, as I say, a nice and easy session. I tell you what, the best thing to do for the purpose of time, and the sake of time, because this is quite a complex sort of topic to be talking about, is go and check out that YouTube video. I'll leave it in the description below and you'll get all of your answers over there. Okay, now I'll tell you what, we're going to move on to the ChatGPT generated questions. And they're quite funny, really. Okay, what inspired you to get into health, fitness, and nutrition in the first place? So this is going to be a little bit of a story time. But I've always played sport, always played football growing up, played, to a relatively decent standard, in and out of academies growing up, and then sort of played semi-pro from a young age, sort of fell into men's semi-pro at 16, played up till I was about 18, got tired of it, then COVID hit, that sort of put an end to sort of my football sort of journey. I just fell out of love with it. But that's a long story that requires, probably a few bottles of beer and a long night ahead. So I won't get into that. But during COVID, I realised obviously the importance of looking after yourself. I've always been fit. I've always gone to the gym. But, specifically the nutrition side of things, it fascinated me. I've always loved food. I've always loved cooking. So it just made sense. And that's where I took the decision to do a degree in nutrition, exercise and health, studied at Kingston University. And since then, the puzzle pieces have all just fit together. And, I've been working, coaching, freelancing in various different nutrition, health, exercise, fitness roles since. So that's where I am today. What's one pivotal moment or experience that changed the direction of your life or career? Jesus. Oh, that's a bit intense, that. Definitely the moment I decided to stop playing football, though. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's people watching this who will resonate with what I'm saying, but when you tie your whole personality to something for so long and you feel like you don't want to let certain people down, you don't want to let yourself down, you've committed so much time, you know what you are capable of as a player in this case, but just find it difficult to... It's really tough. It's really tough. I think the reason that it was such a pivotal moment is because, as I say, I'd attached so much of my identity to it for so long. I didn't know anything different. And when, the emotion built up to the point where I remember breaking down, I had the conversation with my mum and dad, and I broke down to them. I said, look, I can't do this anymore. I can't play football anymore. And the liberation after I said that and got it all off my chest and cried my eyes out was like nothing I've ever experienced before. There was a little bit of guilt for a little bit of time, but I knew it was the right thing for me. And since then, I've been able to do things that I would never have done otherwise. I ran my first half marathon within a few months of doing that, and I've fallen in love with running and fitness and that whole industry ever since, hence where I find myself now. So that would definitely be the most pivotal turning point of my life to this point, for sure. Next question. Let's try and make it a bit, less deep than that. Okay. Excuse me. What's a big personal or professional goal you're working towards right now? Okay, I've always got various different goals that I'm striving for in fitness and, in my athletic pursuits. My big goal for the coming year, because I try not to plan too far in advance, I like to break things down into yearly sort of blocks, is definitely to qualify for the Hyrox World Championships in Stockholm in May or June time next year. So I'll be hoping to do that in the Pro Solo in Valencia. If not, I've got Madrid, and I can treat Valencia as like a warm-up race. So I'd love to be able to qualify for that. That would be a great achievement. So that's a goal of mine. But also from, more of a professional business perspective, it's really to just grow my business and provide the best possible service for my clients. I genuinely think I'm building something pretty special. I'm not seeing very many people, if any at all, doing what I'm doing in terms of, the education that I'm providing, the level of accountability and attention to detail. I've made sure that on this program that I'm building, the Nutritional Growth Blueprint, there really is no stone left unturned. If you want to learn a little bit more about it, I will leave it as a link in the description down below, and there'll be a funnel down there so you can go and check that out. For full transparency, I'll let you know it's a funnel. So yeah, if you are interested, want to hear a bit more, that is down there. But I believe it is, and it will continue to grow and become the best in the business. So I believe in it wholly, and I just want to keep growing that. That's where my focus is on. I love every single moment of working on it. I'm very passionate about it, as I'm sure you can tell by my excitement and tone of voice there. It's a massive goal of mine just to make that the best thing it can possibly be. Okay, next question. What's one habit outside of training and nutrition that has massively improved your life? Now, I'm going to get a lot of laughs for this one. People are going to, point fingers at me and shun me and shame me, but it's a cold shower every single morning, non-negotiable. Middle of the winter, middle of the summer, whether I'm in a hotel, whether I'm at home, whether I'm wherever, I have to start the day with a cold shower, because it's less about, people talk about the benefits for mental clarity and this, that and the other. I don't necessarily know if I believe all of that, you know, hoo-ha, whatever. But for me, it's the discipline. You know, the last thing I want to do when I wake up in the morning is go and have a cold shower most mornings. But I get myself in that shower and I spend, you know, even if it's 30 seconds, sometimes it's slightly longer. But I make sure I have that cold shower, because that's, you know, me starting the day on the right foot. You know, that's the discipline piece that I allude to there. That has been a habit that has changed, you know, my life. But also another one I should mention is journaling. Definitely, I journal every day in the mornings as well. So after my cold shower, I'll have my black coffee, sit down with a pen, with my little journal there, and just jot down my thoughts. It could be anything. I just empty my brain before I start the working day, and that has been, you know, pretty bloody useful as well. Okay, I'm conscious of time here. This is taking a bit longer than I expected, so I'll answer one or maybe two more questions. Where do you see yourself in the next 3 to 5 years? Oh, Jesus. Again, I'll you know, reiterate the fact that I don't tend to think too far in advance. But in 3 to 5 years, you know, it's tough, because I have to pinch myself sometimes and count my blessings, because I'm pretty fortunate to be able to do what I do in this current moment. So in 3 to 5 years' time, one of the things that I value more than anything is freedom. That's geographical freedom, that's financial freedom, that's the ability just to do what I want to do when I want to do it. And that, you know, doesn't come at the sacrifice of, you know, what I'm building and what I'm trying to grow, both athletically and professionally in my business. But I really value the idea of freedom. So it's just leaning into that even more. If in 3 to 5 years' time, I have got that financial freedom, geographical freedom to truly travel and go wherever I like, when I like, and not have to worry about, you know, finances so much, or, you know, budgeting so much, or, you know, the impact that the travel might have on certain other areas of my life, then that's where I want to be. That's you know, the God's honest truth, the answer to that question. One last question. Let's pick from this little list here. Let's try and get a good one. Okay, what have we got? If someone is just starting on their fitness journey, what's the one thing they should focus on first? Okay, now this whole process is outlined in the Nutritional Growth Blueprint. I, you know, take that no stone left unturned approach and make sure things are totally holistic. But I think you can't address what you can't measure. So for me, the first thing is assessing, you know, baseline health metrics and, you know, these sorts of areas, food preferences, everything like that. Once you've established that and you know where you are, then you can sort of start to build and look at where you want to go, where you want to take things. So first step is a Healthline base assessment. And then for me, the first thing to focus on is just establishing where you want to go with things. You need to tie whatever you are doing to a genuine higher purpose. You need to get to the root cause. Keep asking yourself why until you get to the root cause of why you're, you know, embarking on any sort of fitness, health, nutrition pursuit. That's what it boils down to. You've got to attach it to something really powerful, really purposeful, really meaningful, to make sure that you're not reliant on motivation. It just becomes a part of your life. And then we can start looking at, you know, how we actually do make it part of your life. I've got goal setting frameworks and habit setting frameworks that make this a little bit easier. In fact, it makes it a lot easier than just, you know, sort of raw dogging it and doing it on your own. But that's where I'd start. I'd try to, it's probably not the answer you're looking for, because, you know, you're probably looking for some sort of magic potion or magic pill to, you know, do this sort of training split, eat this sort of nutrition plan. But that's what it boils down to. It's a massive mindset thing as opposed to anything else. So yeah, that would be my advice for anyone starting their fitness journey. Find something that truly means a lot to you and chase that, pursue it, lean into it. But that is the end of this little Q&A for a Sunday. If you've sat there and listened to me waffle for 20 minutes, I do appreciate you answering all sorts of random different questions. If there's anything else you want to know off the back of this, please drop it in the comment section below, or go and find me on Instagram. Again, I'll leave a link in the description. I'll remind you once more of that funnel down there, so you can go and click it and find out a little bit more about what I offer as a coach, what my services are. You can learn a bit more about the Nutritional Growth Blueprint, which is a 6-month program that I'm currently operating and building and enjoying every moment of that. So that'll be down there too. No pressure to do so, but you know it's there now. But other than that, thank you so very much for watching once more. Please like, comment and subscribe. I'm coming with 2 to 3 YouTube videos every single week. I've got a vlog style series going on, Chasing High Rocks Valencia, so you can follow me in the countdown to that. I've also got plenty of educational videos, so once more, let me know if there's anything you want to see. But other than that, have a great Sunday, have a great week ahead, whatever day you're watching this, and I'll see you all in the next one in a bit.